Okay, let's finish up our notes for biology. So make sure before you start this that you print off the note pages that are attached to this assignment on Jupyter. Okay, so let's pick up with how these items we've been talking about release energy. Okay, so autotrophs. So remember, autotrophs make their own food. So autotrophs use photosynthesis like plants. They use sunlight, aka that means also known as. Another name for them is photoautotrophs. And an example of that would be cyanobacteria. So cyanobacteria is a blue-green color, as you notice on the screen, and that's where it gets its name from. Autotrophs can also use chemosynthesis. Okay, that means they use inorganic molecules for food, and they're also known as chemoautotrophs. So photoautotrophs, photosynthesis, chemoautotrophs, chemosynthesis. Okay, remember, since this is a video, if I get to going too fast, you can pause it so you can write down the answers and then you can continue on. Okay, the next one is our heterotrophs. Okay, which don't make their own food, they have to eat other things. So most bacteria falls into this category, and they are also known as chemoheterotrophs. But they use organic molecules, and most in this category are saprophytes, which are decomposers of items. Okay, let me move this out of your way. Okay, so cellular respiration. The definition for cellular respiration is the process used to convert food into energy, and this requires oxygen. Hence why it's called respiration, okay, breathing, as we know it, okay? There are three types of bacteria that do and how they handle cellular respiration. So we have obligate, aerobes, like aerobic. That's how the beginning is. So when you do aerobics, you need oxygen constantly to breathe. So obligate aerobes require constant oxygen. Then their opposite is obligate anaerobes. So anaerobic means no oxygen. So these types of bacteria cannot live in the presence of oxygen. In fact, oxygen is like a poison to these types of bacteria. Okay, and then we have what is in the middle, which is called facultative anaerobes. They do not require oxygen, but they are also not poisoned by it if it's around. Like they just don't use it, but they're not poisoned by it. Okay, so perfect conditions for bacterial growth. Okay, first of all, they need moisture. However, during dry spells, an endospore will come around and cover and protect the bacteria for a certain amount of time if there's not any moisture, so it doesn't automatically shrivel up and die. The preferred temperature for bacterial growth is 80 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So in essence, for us in our seasons, that would be summer. Okay. That doesn't mean they can't grow in other places, but like if it's inside and it's that warm or in a particular location, like in your car or whatever, if it's, the sun is beating through. Nutrition. So we've already covered that. Remember that the photosynthetic bacteria requires light to make food, and chemosynthetic bacteria requires chemicals. Okay. Okay, they also prefer darkness. They grow best in limited to no light, except for the photosynthetic bacteria, because that does need light to grow its food, as we talked about in number 3. And then 5, oxygen. Each type of bacteria needs the proper amount, which we just went over under the cellular respiration slide. Okay, how they reproduce. So bacteria only reproduce asexually through what is called binary fission. Okay, That's where it copies the DNA and it divides into two parts. And under ideal conditions, bacteria can divide in about 20 minutes and then start the process again and again and again. Okay, so in 1 hour, it can divide 3 times, but you're going to have more than just that. Okay. Generic variations of bacteria. Okay, the first one is conjugation, and that is the far right picture. That is a temporary union of two organisms for the purpose of transferring DNA. So they connect and create a channel and transfer information. That's conjugation. Okay. 2, transformation, which is the first picture A, transformation. That's a transfer of DNA segment from a dying cell to a living cell. Okay, and then transduction, the picture in the middle, that is a process a virus uses to infect bacteria through a DNA transfer. Conjugation, temporary union to transfer. Transformation, that is DNA from a dying cell to a living cell. Transduction is what a virus uses to infect bacteria. Okay, so let's talk about why bacteria is important, because it is not all bad. Okay, so they are chemical recyclers and bioremediation. Okay, so let's talk about what that means. So bacteria is crucial for the carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen cycles that we did last semester. They are a critical part in each one of those cycles. And then microbial bioremediation, that's when a bacteria is used to remove pollutants from a soil, water, or air. And an example of this would be sewage treatment plants, large water supplies, or when there's oil spills. Bacteria can be used to remove the pollutants from those items. Okay, the second reason why bacteria is important is how it relates to us as humans. So probiotics, which is intestinal bacteria, are good bacteria that keep our guts healthy. So if our stomach and any other digestive organs or systems get out of whack, your doctor will suggest, or you may choose to get on your own, to take a probiotic pill that helps get everything back aligned and healthy. Bacteria is also used to make insulin, vitamins, and antibiotics. It is also in foods such as cheese, yogurt, buttermilk, and sour cream. So there are types of bacteria that are important and necessary for our lives. And third, let's talk about bacteria and disease. So pathogenic bacteria usually cause disease by either damaging cells and tissue or producing toxins that hurt the body. So there are 2 types of toxins: exotoxin, which is produced during growth, and endotoxin, which is found in the cell wall. So endo means inside, so found in the cell wall. And then by default, you'll be able to remember that exotoxin is the one that's during growth. Okay, some common diseases that work with bacteria: pneumonia, tooth decay, cholera. We don't see that happening as much in the United States as in more third world countries. Food poisoning, Lyme disease, and tetanus fall under diseases related to bacteria. Okay, so how can we protect ourselves from diseases? So A, God created our immune system to help protect from everyday diseases. It's also important to handle food correctly. So make sure items that need to be heated to certain temps are heated. They're not left out without being reheated, or they're refrigerated before they're reheated. Just make sure you handle food correctly. And then C, antibiotics. Okay. However, we need to be careful with antibiotics because they will also affect good bacteria too. And they only work on bacterial infections. Antibiotics do not work on viral infections. So your doctor has to watch how many antibiotics that he prescribes you. Okay. Viruses. The definition for viruses is a non-living infectious agent with genetic material that cannot reproduce on its own. It must infect a living cell to continue on living. Okay. So how does a virus infect? So the first way it infects is through the lytic cycle. Okay. The virus enters the cell. Okay. So here's your virus. It looks like some type of bug. Okay. So it finds a cell and it enters it. Okay. And then it goes in and it takes over the DNA system. So the process through here is taking over the DNA system, makes copies of itself, and then at the end is going to cause the cell to burst, which releases more viruses. So when it came in and took over the DNA, it makes that cell make more of the virus, and then it makes the cell burst so that the more virus comes out. That's the first part. 2 is the lysogenic cycle. So in this, when it gets done with that, it can also enter a cell, embed in its DNA, and copy that cell's DNA. So it's kind of like making a clone, so to speak. It replicates, okay? And it can do that rather quickly sometimes. So defenses against viral diseases. And some examples of viral diseases are warts, chickenpox, the common cold, flu, mumps, measles, AIDS, and the COVID-19 virus. Okay. So again, defenses against this is an immune system. So keeping your immune system healthy. 2, sometimes with these items, there are vaccines that can help. And a vaccine is a weakened or inactive version of the disease that helps the body, produce antibodies to destroy the disease. So they put a weakened version of the diseases in the vaccine. And when it hits your body automatically starts producing antibodies, which go in to destroy that disease. However, some viral diseases mutate too rapidly for a vaccine to work, such as colds and AIDS. Medicine cannot cure most viral infections. Okay. Same thing with not that they necessarily mutate too rapidly, they may, but with the flu and COVID-19, the vaccine is always going to be behind in the version of the disease, as opposed to by the time it comes back around, it has mutated and changed. It's always going to be a changed version. So the vaccine is not a perfect fit all the time. It's a personal, each person's body may deal differently with that vaccine. Okay, and I believe that is it for our notes. So make sure you check your homework and see what goes with your homework.